Hi everyone, I am Yassin and welcome to the tutorial video about the Life Bar sample project. This video will basically explain you how the Life Bar project work and what are the possibilities, which is one for what you can use it and what you can basically customize on it. Let's first of all start by a simple presentation about the project. The project is very simple. When you tap the screen, you will shoot a projectile, and when the collision happens with the enemy, it will decrease its own life bar. As the life bar can be used like a life bar for your enemy, for your own character. You can also use it for other objects. Maybe you want to protect a base or I don't know, a house or something like that, and you want to decrease it so you can make a visualizations object of how many life left on it. You can also use it for other stuff like mana or energy, or maybe you don't want to decrease it, but you want to increase the life instead of decreasing it. You want to increase it every time when you connect something, for example. You can also maybe even use it for a timer. But you have to be creative maybe and to see what you can customize all in the script. So we'll check just now. But before checking the script, let's check the 3D object that we have. You have the life bar object here that we are decreasing, and you can see what happened here. So we have the Z scale that is decreasing every time we touch the enemy. And I also have the life bar frame. This one it's not needed for the logic, and you can just remove it. For example, if you want to have a life bar whiteout frame, and you just want to have a simple life bar like that, it's also possible for you. If you want to still keep it, then you can keep it. About the life bar, it's an object I have made in Blender, so you can use mine if you want. But if you decide to make your own on Blender, you need to do something very different. It's about the scale itself, because imagine if I make my own life bar here and I decide to export it. So let's say I want to make this one. I have my own life bar. I want to customize some stuff on it. And now I want to export it. Before exporting it, you have to be careful for the scale because you can see the life bar that we have here. It's when we start the game with it, when we reset the life bar, all the scales are equal to 1. And you need to have this, otherwise the logic will not work correctly. So you need to have scale 1 everywhere. So don't forget to reset the scale on it. So you will have scale everywhere equal to 1. And then you can export it, of course. You also have some stuff to fix with the pivot axis, because you see now when we are decreasing the scale of it, you see it's not good, but we don't need to do that here in Blender. This is something that we need to fix in Studio itself, because you can see in Studio, I have changed the pivot point, because if the pivot point is selected to center, then we will not have a good pivot point. Because now when we will change the scale, the Z scale of our life bar, it will change from the both side, from the right side and the left side. And this is something that we don't want. We need to, to change the scale from only one side. And to do that, you need to change the pivot point to front, like this. And now you see that the pivot point is here. So when I am changing the scale of my life bar, it will go from right to the left. And this is what is happening here. Basically, when I am colliding, when my projectile is colliding with the enemy, I am just changing the Z scale of it. So you can see when I am customizing it like that, it's changing my scale. And now let's check the scripts that we have. Yes, about the life bar frame GLB, this one can stay just in center, but you need to make sure to position it correctly in the good position so the life bar will be inside. We can see it here. Okay, let's check our scripts now, and let's start with the projectile script. The projectile script is a very easy one. Basically, it's just a script that you can find here in first person controller. It's also a project available in project library. And I just took this one basically. So I took the projectile type script from them. It's exactly the same one, but I have changed some stuff like For example, I imported another component I have created, and so we will check later. It's the entity role component, and I also have set it here, entity role component for the created entity. So it's a bar, it's a projectile that we create when we shoot, and we give to this projectile the name, the role name projectile. So when you are typing, before so you see the projectile going, it's first created. So you can see that here we are creating our entity and we are setting it up. So we are adding the collider, the sphere geometry, the material, the position, a lot of stuff. And I am also adding this component, the role name projectile component. This is very important for our logic. You will see it later. Since this object is intended to be projectile, assign it to the projectile role using entity role component. Now let's check the next step. It's a life bar manager. This one is the component that's managing our life bar. So basically, this one is the component that's managing our life bar. First of all, we have the entity component that's also imported here because we need to check which role have collided with our object. And let's see what we have. So we have the name, it's health manager. We also have schema, health amount to remove, life bar. So this is basically like for people that are from Unity, it's basically the public variable that you have. When you are putting it here, it will be available from outside of the script. So if we check our life bar parent, you can find them all here. Health amount remove. We have the life bar, we have the enemy object, and the health amount. The life bar is the life bar that we want to change. So I need to take life bar GLB. I need to look for it here and to select it. The enemy body represents the object that contain the physical collider of our enemy, okay, or our entity that we want to change his health, okay. See, so when you select this one, you need to select the one with the physical collider. Now I am looking further to the health amount. This one can also be changed. We can, for example, select 1000, and when we select 1000, it will also change the health amount to 1000. So you will see when we will remove 20, removing 20 from 1000, it's not a lot. So it will not remove a lot of health from our character. Let's test that. Well, you can see it's removing, it's decreasing a bit, not a lot. Okay. And let's see further what we have. Yeah, by the way, for about the health amount to remove and the health amount, I am putting those by default to 10 and this one to 100, but this will be like the default amount. But no, since I changed it in my project, it will be saved like that. So if you want to change it to something different, you need if you want to have it by default to something different, your custom own amount, you can also change it. In data, we have nothing, and then we are adding this add. It will be a simple one function that will start one time. Okay, when my project, my component is in the scene and it starts, it will be launched one time, and it's all. So it will be only started. Now, when we start this one, we will set up some variables from the component schema, health, amount to remove, life bar, and enemy object. So this is basically just instead, like if take for example here, I am referring to this one. It's instead of saying component dot health amount to remove, I don't want to write this one every time that I need it. So what I want to do is just referring to it here. And when I say component schema, it will automatically check for me what is named, what is called health amount to remove. Okay, this one, life bar, it's also this one, and enemy object, the same name. So it will automatically refer to it. Now we have the const health will be divided by. So this is basically something that we will use here later in the Z scale, because you can see the Z scale need to be 1. So we need to take, here we will basically store the health amount in the beginning of it. So the health amount is 100, then we will store 100 here. And the Z scale will be health amount divided by health will be divided by. It's basically to put it to 1. Now let's check the world event. Okay, here we will set up the collision logic. So we'll start an event listener, and the event listener will refer to the enemy object. We have, do you remember? So we have set it up here the enemy body to the enemy object. And what we want to do is just say ECS physics collision start event. It's just to create the start event itself. We want the start event of the physics from the enemy object. So when the enemy object will collide with something, a collision will start, and this collision will make an event starting for us. Now, this event will also give us some data. And those data, when we look at them and we take the author, because the data of it will provide us some stuff about the collision and also provide us what are the bodies that are included in this collision. The first body that is included, and we know that already, is the enemy object. But there is also another object that's included in the collision. And this is why we need to take this. And now I think that you remember we need to have the collided object role name. And to do that, we are looking to the entity role component, so this one, and we want to see if the collided object have this entity role component. And this is why we are making this one. So this one, this component, if you use this logic, you need to integrate this one. I will tell you why. Because this one will give basically a role name to your object. So when you create an object to have physics and that can collide with your enemy, we want to check what are the name of the object to have collided with it. Because maybe you will collide with wall and you don't want your enemy to decrease his health if he collide with a wall. You want it to decrease only if he collide with a projectile. The problem is that when we get these objects here, we can say, okay, let's check by name, maybe. You can't get the name from the collided object, the auto collided object in Studio. And this is why I am making this one. And to make sure everything will work correctly, you need to make every object in your scene have these components. Every object that contain, of course, a physics, like colliders, and that can collide with your enemy. For example, your camera don't need it. The life bar don't need it. It's a separated object. They don't need that. But only if you get, for example, let's take a box, and I say this box is representing the ground. We will change the size of it, and now our enemy can collide with the ground. I am calling it ground, like that. Now the ground need to have physics collider, and I say, okay, it's static. Now I need to add the entity role, and I want to specify the role to ground. So now when it will collide with it, it will just say, okay, it's a ground. So I don't need to destroy it. I don't need to activate my health decrease because he's just colliding with the ground. No, so I have my collided role object and I am also printing it. And this is why you can see here in the console some stuff that I am printing. Ouch, he's crying ouch. And you can see projectile. He's crying because we are decreasing his life. Now we have the next is some check that we are doing. Is enemy dead? The enemy is not dead, it's still false. So we can go further. And we also have the collided object's role name equal to projectile. So if the collided role object role name equal to projectile, then we will start to take damage. And you can see here when we start by giving some damage to the enemy, he is crying ouch, and then we can subtract the damage from the enemy health amount. We have the health amount, and we are declaring its amount to remove. So it's basically this one. You can choose how much you want to remove. Then we are calculating the new Z scale. So Z scale equal to health will be divided by, and we have stored it here because now it's, of course, it's removed, so we can't use health amount to remove, but we have stored the base health amount before we remove this one. Now we know how much there is. If there is 1,000, then we will divide by 1,000. If there is 100, we will divide by 100. And let's check the scale. Now we want to change the scale, and we want to change only the Z scale, okay? Those ones need to stay the same. usage scale based on remain health. And this will update our amount. Then we are making a simple last check. It's a check about health amount of our character. So how much health do our character still have now? If our character have zero, then we need to say enemy is dead to print teasing our console and maybe add something fun like no I am dying. Okay, he's dead. Okay. And of course, for my demo, I want you to try it infinitely. I want to reset it every time. So this is why after a set timeout, after a timeout like of 2 seconds, I am resetting it. So let's reset the health amount equal to health will divided by, because we have already stored how much we have here. I am just using it again, and then changing the scale again to 1 and say enemy is dead equal to false. So the enemy is not dead anymore. Of course, you see here, for example, I am decreasing it. I am subtracting the damage from the enemy health. But in your case, if you want to customize it for something else, you can also say, yeah, instead of decreasing it, I want to add. And I don't want to check if you are equal to 0, but I want to check if you are equal to 1. So this is a simple example of what you can do for it. Also, you see here the projectile. When I create it, I give the role name projectile. So imagine if I say not projectile and I update it, you will see that it will not do something because we are checking if the name is projectile. And if the name is something else, then we are not removing it. Wait, maybe it's still updating. Okay, no, okay, you can see no, it's not decreasing. So the name need to be projectile or something else. You can also change this one. So if you want to change to something different, you need to give your own proper name. And I think it's all. I hope it will help you to make your own project and it will help you to customize it. I hope this video have explained everything you need. If you have any more questions about specify about this project, maybe you can post them in the comments of this video. But the best you can do will always be to check the H1 forums, and here you can post all your question. For example, I was looking for the question about collision not working. And I have found someone that have posted a very interesting question, because sometimes you can have a question that have already get an answer. Like someone else gets the same question as you, and there is an answer available, so it will make you win sometimes and find the solution directly. So I hope it's helped. This video helped you. I hope my project is helping you to make your own projects, your own games. Thanks and goodbye. See you later. Yo.